Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alien vs. Predator Galaxy podcast, the original Alien and Predator podcast. This regular host, Aaron Percival, and joining me is my fellow galactically disgraced junior executive at Weyland-Yutani,
Adam Zeller, aka RidgeTop.
and this is episode 208. And this is a good one. This one's a cool one. We are chatting to none other than three of the people that are three of the people responsible for the recently very entertaining, very strong, quite surprising. I went into this one not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, but it really, really pleasantly surprised me. And to be fair, we enjoyed it if we're interviewing the creative team behind it, because I don't normally seek out the people responsible for the comics that I didn't enjoy too much. I didn't get any value out of. So, just off the fact that we're doing this, that it's something that I got a lot of value out of.
Yeah, this was another really fun interview, and it's always interesting when we're interviewing multiple people at once and just seeing how the whole vibe plays out, But yeah, these were writers and people involved in the story. Of course, Paul Reiser, who needs no introduction, from Aliens fame, his son Leon Reiser, and Brian Volk-Weiss, and all of them were just great to talk to. And Leon, especially, you could definitely tell had a lot of sci-fi enthusiasm that we can always relate to. So
definitely, Brian does dip out of this just towards the end. You'll obviously see it on the video version. It's not as noticeable in the audio version, but yeah, he does disappear in the last 10 minutes or so. So just something to be wary of. Or be conscious of, sorry, should I say, when you're going, where's Brian's voice when everybody's saying goodbye? But that's why. But we very much appreciate getting the time that we did with all three of them. We were going to be joined by the Goldbergs as well, but unfortunately, Adam F. Goldberg and Hans Rodionoff, but unfortunately they had to bow out last minute, so we didn't get to talk to them, but very much enjoyed talking to the Risers and Brian anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we reviewed this comic a little while back on our podcast, and I think we're all pretty positive about it. Like you, Aaron, I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to kind of dig into the creation of this story with these guys.
Indeed. So let's shut up and get to the main attraction. Right, first of all, thank you all for joining us today. Before we do start nerding out about aliens, though, can you each introduce yourselves and tell us a little about yourselves outside of Aliens What If? Who are you and what do you do? And we'll start with Brian for this one, please.
I am the founder and current CEO of the Nacelle Company. I had the initial idea for what became what I call Burke, and then had very little else to do with it except suggesting quotes from the movies.
Leon, how about yourself? Although I feel like you guys don't need much intros here, but Leon, go ahead.
Sure, yeah. Fan and son. I've been longtime Aliens fan and comic book writer. I've got another book coming out at the end of April with Brian the Great Garlou, and hopefully more comics to come from me. But yeah, just a fan and a writer. Yeah.
Awesome. And this last guy, I don't think we really know much about this last guy.
Nor do you need to. I had precious little to do. That's not quite true, but Brian called me and he gave me a 10-minute. We've been working together for 10, 12 years. And he said, I have an idea and you're going to hate it. And I know you're going to hate it. I go, just tell me the idea. I'll tell you if I hate it. I don't need the preamble. He said, what if Burke lived? I said, fucking love it. That's hysterical. And he said, great. And I think he had already spoken to Adam Goldberg, who really shepherded the thing. And then I casually said, my son Leon is quite clever, and and he loves the comic book world and knows that. Maybe he could, I don't know, somehow be involved. I didn't know that he would end up doing such a great deal of the writing. And my contribution to the What If was really, limited to Burke's dialogue. All the action stuff, I went, go with God. I'm sure that's accurate. I'm sure that's what happened in space.
Can we talk for 1 second about Adam? Because I've learned with Zooms like this, it always sucks when someone's not there and like
True.
they kind of get erased from history. Can we, and that should not happen with
Yes.
Adam.
So
And Hans as well. Yeah.
So Adam, you want me to do it? Oh, you want to do it?
You, please.
Okay. So Adam Goldberg, if you've heard of him, he's the creator of the Goldbergs. He did Disney's Muppet Show last year. So I've been very lucky. I've known Adam for a while. We've done some stuff together, but we're friends, like we bid against each other in auctions. We get dinner with our wives, all that crap. So one day he and I are on a call. It has nothing to do with aliens, nothing to do with anything. And at the end of the call, he goes, oh, hey, one more thing real quick. I do comic books every now and then, usually with Marvel. They have asked us if we have any ideas for the new Disney acquisition of the Fox library. So he goes, if you ever think of any ideas, let me know. I go, I got it right now. 4 words. He's like, okay. And I go, what if Burke lived? And he goes, I like that. He called me back 2 hours later and he goes, it normally takes Marvel 6 to 12 months to say yes. They said yes on the spot. So that was before what Paul said. Then we called Paul. I was like, hey, I did 10 minutes of prefacing. And then Paul jumped on board and what happened. But like I said, I just wanted to make sure Adam got the credit he deserves.
And Adam's partner, Hans Radioff, did the lion's share of the execution of it. Well, Leon, you can speak.
Hans is a real, fan of the stuff, and I know they all both put their heart into all this. And everyone was so excited, including Hans and Adam. We were all just so excited to be getting this opportunity and really, really put our love for the stuff in it. So, yeah, we hope that shows.
Yeah, and I think Hans actually has a credit for all for the first 4 issues, and then you tackled the final issue on your own, Leon.
Yeah, we were all collaborating on all of them throughout. So even if their name's not on it, there's their DNA's in there somewhere. But yeah, the last issue was my own, and I got to work closely with Hans on number 2. Yeah, it was a great experience. Yeah, it was great all in all.
Writers' credits are on TV and film too are often misleading. That you see someone's name, they go, they weren't even there, and then the real person who did a lion's share didn't make it. So this was truly collaborative. I would say, Brian and Adam kicked it off, and then Hans really ran with it, and Hans and Leon did, I think, the lion's share of breaking the stories. And as I said, I just chimed in on dialogue for Burke.
What was that collaborative process like? Was it set up like a writer's room, given Hans's and Adam's background on television?
I think for the most part, the first draft they would get started, and then we'd all get kicked around, by all of us, and then we all wanted to, put our notes in. Brian was definitely keen to was our movie guideline, sticking to the universe, and it was really a collaborative effort.
How often were you guys actually in the same room, Leon? Was it just the beginning?
We had so the beginning process was, we started off, once we had the idea, we planned out the 5-story arc, the 5-issue arc, and we were in person for that, wrote that up, sent that in, and then we weren't in person only 2 or 3 times, and everything else was just sending documents back and forth or on Zoom here and there. But yeah, it wasn't really in person.
I think the first, tell me if I'm wrong, Leon, I think the first time we were ever all together was actually at Blast from the Past. Like even
minus me, yeah.
Oh, you weren't at that. Oh, shit.
I think our first time we had the whole group together was at Golden Apple. We did a signing at Golden Apple Comics,
Yes.
the best store in LA.
And by the way, to your point, Leon, I think that's the only time we're all, every single one of us. Yeah.
Geez, maybe. Yeah, geez.
I usually try and stop at Blast from the Past when I'm in Burbank. It's a cool little store. I think my friend Mike got a Polaroid from you, Paul, actually.
You should savor that, because that's quite valuable. That is quite valuable.
But every Alien podcast has to naturally ask all of its new guests about the first time they ever encountered our favorite acid-blooded extraterrestrial monster. Do you all remember how the Alien franchise, how it was introduced to you? Was it through one of the movies or through some other media? Let's start with you, Paul. I assume you had seen Alien before you were in Aliens?
Yeah. I don't know that I don't remember how much I knew going into it. You know, all the surprises and the chest bursting and all that. It was thrilling, and I had a years-long crush on Sigourney Weaver, that still active. Yeah, it was so masterfully done, you know, and the film was so. It was so compressed. It was such a small scale, and it was huge within this confined area. But that was, you know, I'm not a really big comic book guy at all, or a sci-fi guy, and I wouldn't normally probably go to see movies that, well, it's a big critter that eats people. I go, yeah, okay, yeah, I don't need that. But at the time, you know, I remember it was, I mean, you had to go see it, and it was thrilling and scary.
Yeah, and I think Aliens is what really turned it into a franchise. I don't think there was too much expanded media around the time of the first film. But how about you, Leon? What's your first memory with the Alien franchise?
You know, I've been a long time, always loved sci-fi and stuff like that. So I saw Alien beforehand. I was kind of wary of watching Aliens because, you know, having an actor dad is weird, because whenever you're watching something in it, you're like, oh, that's the guy who wiped my butt and makes my bagels. Like, I can't take this this isn't serious anymore.
Never at the same time. Those are two different activities.
No, one before the other.
And the toasting. But you had seen Alien
2-3 years ago.
You had seen the first one?
I had seen Alien. Yeah. Loved Alien. And then we were watching Aliens at a friend's house, and it was like the only time I ever enjoyed my father's work, because I was like, this is so not the guy. It's a masterful movie, of course, but yeah, I've always loved Alien since the first time I saw it. It was cool, always very cool to see. You know,
would you please share with the group your critique? What came out of your mouth during that film?
What? I don't remember. I don't know, what was it?
Oh, I'll never. It was such a sweet think. I don't know. You were maybe 10 or 11 or something. And our friend did a screening of the thing at his house, his beautiful projector system. And guess what? And I think, to my mind, it's the first thing that I was in that you had seen at all. And Leon is 10 years old. And then when it's revealed that Burke has done what he done, little sweet 10-year-old Leon goes, "Oh my God, Dad, you're such a dick," which was just precious. It
was refreshing to see. It was refreshing to see. Yeah.
Had you seen any of your dad's stuff before that?
You know, I think I probably avoided it up until then. That was the only thing that I was like, oh, well, I guess I have to see him now. I guess I have to see him work now, you know, for Aliens.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There was very successfully avoided it. You did very well.
Yeah. And that's the only thing I've seen. No.
I was going to say, are you serious there?
No. But definitely a favorite, yeah.
And how about for you, Brian?
I was I had become obsessed with the first Terminator movie, and was going on and on about it. And my mom had seen the first Alien, or also known as Alien. Probably in this community, I don't need to preface with that. And luckily, she and my dad had a miscommunication, and because they wanted to watch Aliens before I got to watch it. My mom thought my dad had, and my dad thought my mom had. So I actually saw Aliens, I mean, could even be 10 years before I saw Alien. And please, I'm begging you for my reputation, do not ask me what I think of Alien. But I fell in love with it and became absolutely obsessed with the movie. In fact, I'll throw in a little twofer. The very, very first time I ever met Paul, and I hate to tell you this, Paul, it was way more than 12 years ago. Way more. We're getting around 15 plus.
Oh.
So the first time I met him, it was at our office, and I didn't know if I'd ever see him again, ever. And so literally as I'm walking him out, he goes, "Oh, hey, is there a bathroom here I can use before I go?" And I go, yeah, sure. It's back and to the right. He's like, "Thank you." And then I went out of my way to make sure. I said, and now I'm going to screw it up, but I said, I go, "We manufacture those." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "What?" And I'm like, and it's one of my favorite lines from Alien, sorry. And then when I found out that he would be working with us, I realized I would have a lifetime of throwing his own quotes in his face.
Which I never, ever recognized.
Yes.
Ever. Yeah, I remember, it might have been that first meeting too. You show him around the office and you said, "This installation has a significant dollar value." And I went, "Well, I'm sure it's a beautiful office." He goes, "No, asshole." I go, yeah.
Well, there you go.
I'm not quick on the uptake with quotes of mine.
And Brian, because we mentioned it off the before the recording started, you also produced and put together the movies that make us aliens.
Yes. Yeah, I created the show and I direct the episodes. So I have discussed this with Sigourney Weaver. Yes. And that's a story for another time. But yes.
Is she not in it?
Oh no, she's definitely in it. And it's quite the story how we got her. But anyway.
Does it ever feel normal when you get to meet people like Paul, like Sigourney, when you're working on these kind of projects, and this is a film that has such a importance to you?
Paul, yes. I mean, it'd be very strange if after a decade and a half I was still starstruck. But it never you really kind of never get used to. I mean, again, Paul and I hope this doesn't offend you, Paul. Paul and I are pretty close, so it's worn off. But other celebrities who I'm not close with, but I do talk to a lot. I mean, it's always weird hearing their voice. Like, it's much weirder, the voice on the phone, than it is meeting them and being in person with them. I can't always, I have theories as to why, but you just, it's to a certain degree, it never really goes away. But with Paul, it definitely has, which really is.
Leon, do you remember the magic of knowing me is worn off for you as well, hasn't it?
Oh, that was year 2 or 1 even. Yeah,
that was early on.
Yeah,
or as we say in our house, that was season 2.
It was after the diapers, but before the bagels.
Yeah, the minute he could talk. But it's funny you talk about the voice of people. When we were doing Mad About You, we had this knuckleheaded idea. We were trying to get Marlon Brando to do a cameo that was going to be that big and that quick. And we said, and we had reason. Somebody said he'd be open to the invitation. So I reached out, and I came back to my office one day. And there was a voicemail from Marlon Brando, who surprisingly sounds exactly like Marlon Brando, and it was mumbling. I can't do it, but he was going, and he got my name wrong. He goes, "I'm trying to Paul Reiser. It's Marlon Brando. I'm in Toronto. I'll call you back." I went, "Everybody, you got to come hear this. It's Marlon Brando in the worst performance of his life, but it sounded like him." It was very cool. Cut to, he never did the show.
That's brilliant.
Because I didn't call him back. Fuck him.
Because of the name.
Yeah, you got my name wrong. You can't be on my show. How about that?
So next year, Aliens, Paul, I'm sorry, celebrates its 40th anniversary. The OG Alien is coming up to 46 years old this year. And the Alien franchise is one fans and creatives such as yourselves, they just keep coming back to explore and enjoy. What do you think it is about the Alien franchise that keeps it resonating with audiences and creatives after nearly half a century? Leon, why don't you lead us off with this one?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, speaking for the younger generation here, it's just as popular. I think I've heard, stories about friends going on dates and then their date puts on Aliens when they get back and they're like, oh, I know. No. But it's like, it's still very much in the zeitgeist. And I think it's because the tale of like scary thing in space coming to get us is the classic sci-fi tale, but I think this is just the most, it's like, who knows if it's going to kill us? No, these things are definitely going to kill us. It's more about how long can we survive. And I think that is what keeps Aliens going. It's because it's about as extreme and scary as, the deep, dark, scary depths of space can get. I think it's always going to be horrifying and exciting no matter what year you're in,
Brian, how about you?
I chalk it up to originality. If you really look at the films that work in the franchise and the films that don't work, it's really about originality. The first movie, nothing like it. I mean, nothing ever. The second film took one of the most unique films ever made, ostensibly a horror film, and just turned it into an action movie that was so good. It held up. It looks brand new. You can watch it now and it looks brand new. The third one, very dubious, taking beloved characters and killing them 30 seconds in. Wasn't that original. The fourth one, everyone shits on it. I love that movie. Aliens to level 4, or whatever level she says. One of my favorite quotes in all of Aliens. Prometheus keeps pushing the story forward. And also the horror gets pushed forward. The scene where she goes into that pod and the surgery, that's as fucking fucked up as anything in the first one. And so on and so on. I forget what it's called, the one that followed Prometheus, didn't push it forward. Covenant, I think, is awful. And then Romulus pushed it forward, scary moments. And that, I think it's the originality.
That's fair takes. Paul, how about yourself as the non-sci-fi guy here?
I'm going to have to stand on what my two colleagues have said. Mainly because I haven't seen 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm sure they're dynamite. But I will say, yes, originality. I can only go from my experience. Reading the script of Aliens was breathtaking on the page. And having seen Terminator, I said, okay, Jim Cameron, with this, it was, I said, I don't know why I'm being considered, but yes, if you'll have me, this would be great. But what I didn't know until we did the reunion, the 35th year reunion, and we started doing Comic-Con, and I've been at some of these events, I didn't really get how deep the attachment was and how alive it is, just for that film. I can't speak to the others, but I remember I've met several people go, oh, I watch this movie every Saturday for the last 38 years. I'm like, Jesus Christ, get a job, get out of the house. That doesn't sound good. But, and then I've seen pieces of it. And it's like, and it's one of those films when it's on, if you catch it, you go, I got to sit here and watch it. Because to Brian's point, it is that good. And how many films have been sort of stood on the shoulders of Jim Cameron's Aliens. It's the action sequences, the pacing of it, it was just so well done.
Not just other films. It transcends into other media as well. Halo. What would Halo be like without Aliens?
Yeah. I've never thought about that connection, but yeah.
Just want to add to what Paul said. Greatest thing of my career, USO trip to Iraq. Second greatest thing, private tour, ILM archives. Third greatest thing of my career, me and Paul went to Calgary, Canada for the 35th anniversary. 2 or 3 of the greatest days of my entire career. And if you get rid of my wife and kids, one of the greatest things of my entire life.
That was not an invitation, fellas. He's not asking you to get rid of it. He's just saying in hypothetical.
Yeah, if you remove that came out wrong. If you remove,
I'm honored to be part of one of the greatest days of your life.
Oh,
as is Calgary.
the best.
Yeah, Aliens is one of 2 films in the franchise, along with Resurrection, that I haven't had the opportunity to see in a theater yet. So I'm hoping for the 40th anniversary next year I can make it happen.
I will share this little behind-the-scenes moment, that knowing a little bit of how passionate and obsessive Brian is about aliens. And we were at the Comic-Con in San Diego, and we were in the little green room before, and there's Jim Cameron, and I hadn't seen him. We're chatting, and Leon was there, and I'm going, well, look at this, Jim Cameron is, and he was talking about, I don't know if I asked him, somebody said, well, what was the process like writing? And he was telling
that was me. I asked him what.
Oh, did you ask?
It began with me asking him. I know we were there for Aliens, but Terminator 2 specifically is like one of my favorites.
Yeah, and he was very
like,
forthcoming, and he was sharing. Yeah,
more than forthcoming.
Yeah, and then
he
Brian
shared
the
full script. Yeah.
And I was, just enjoying. Leon was getting this experience, and equally Brian. I knew how much. And just as Jim Cameron was getting to a really juicy part, some woman comes over to Brian and goes, "Brian, Marilyn," and he goes, some woman that he knew 40 years ago, and he get pulled away. I'm going, this is a heartbreak. He got pulled away, and what a decent guy he is that he didn't go, "Fuck off, I'm talking to Jim Cameron." No, he said, "Oh, how are you?" And we missed the whole Jim Cameron.
It was an ex-girlfriend, first of all.
Ex-girlfriend, okay.
Yeah.
I felt for you, and I just I saluted your civility.
It was not easy.
Because I didn't know her, and I would have told her to fuck off. Don't you see? He's talking to Jim Cameron.
As Leon said, though, it was wild. He just started answering everything. Yeah. I mean, it was at one point he couldn't answer something. He was like, Gail. Gail comes running over, and he's like, wow. This guy asked me about, and Gail, and so we're sitting there with the 2 of them. It's pretty wild.
It was pretty special, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds so surreal a moment. And Brian, you've touched on this a little bit, but I think while many Alien fans were expecting something like this, a what if, an alternate continuity thing, once Marvel took over publishing, given alternate universes make up the backbone of Marvel, but I don't think any of us would have claimed to have what if Burke survived on our bingo card of these kind of stories. Where the hell did that concept come from? Why was that the thing that you zoned in on? And then, Adam fortunately had the ties to get there.
You said you're a Star Trek fan, right?
Yes.
So you know who Captain Jellicoe is?
The Raging Bellend, of course.
Well, it's funny you say that. So I've always been attracted to kind of, for lack of a better expression, the asshole. And I always loved Burke. Always. Like I just thought he was such a great character. And, again, long before I would ever meet Paul, long before I even knew what, anything else about what Paul has done, I found him so interesting and funny. And then when I heard through the grapevine, and then after YouTube was created, saw the footage of him surviving and Ripley putting the grenade in his mouth, it just hit me, like in college, I think. Like, I wonder how differently things would have been had Burke not died. And that's really what it was. It was that simple.
So this has been gestating for a while.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And then it burst out of his chest when the time was right.
Acid for blood.
Exactly.
So Burke is truly the villain of Aliens. He's the embodiment of the failings of humans in the film. And
it can be argued that way.
Sure. And though I don't think we can say the What If comic redeems him fully, it certainly did a fantastic job at making him entertaining and maybe likable. Was it a difficult creative journey deciding on what approach you were going to take with this character in the comic. So whoever wants to take it, go for it.
I mean, I think that was like immediately we were like, we want to show why he did this. Why there? It wasn't just, you know, it was an opportunity to more than just like extreme villain doing the most extreme things. Like, no, there's a reason. We never got the backstory. You know, we kind of knew about it. You know, there was some family or whatever, but I think we always knew that we wanted to do a first comedic thing in the Aliens universe, because when else are they going to get a chance for goofs and gaffs in Aliens? And we wanted to show, you know, maybe there's an explanation. Maybe it's not a good explanation. Maybe it's not an excuse, but there's more than just like, I'm out to do bad for money's sake, you know? And I think we were all excited curious as fans, like, what would that be? I think we're all pretty happy with the resolution that we crafted in the book. Yeah.
See, unlike Brian, I have to say I was not thinking for the last 30 years that we need to wrap this around and turn it around. But as a joke, you know, interviews or people would say, "Oh, what was it like playing the bad guy?" And my standard joke was, "Oh, you say bad guy, I say misunderstood." And that was just my way of going, "Yeah, maybe there's another way to look at it." So then after Brian pitched the first thing and he just said, you know, what if Burke lived, which I thought was hysterical. And we had this idea that it could be a show. I think the way he pitched it was like The Office in space. He's just been relegated to the worst, lowest job in the worst office ever, in the ass end of the universe. And then the next that Adam and Brian hammered out a bit of a storyline, and Adam had this very detailed thing of, he did it for a reason, and it was not only just a reason, it was a very noble reason, and it was a romantic reason that his wife has been in a coma since childbirth, and the only way to bring his love back to life is to get the acid from the. I thought, well, okay, there you go. Not just misunderstood, very misunderstood. So there was a noble reason. As Leon said, maybe it's not a good reason. It's still maybe not worth doing what you did, but the intent. And I always thought that, even when playing it, it's like, I don't think he went up there and going, I got to get this thing down and I'm going to screw everybody. I think the opportunity, in my head anyway, was the opportunity, and the idea came once there. So I love the idea, and it really felt sort of synchronicitous, if that's the word, that this sort of joke that I've been saying for 35 years of like, there's another reason, there's an explanation to Burke. And Adam came up with this beautiful story. Adam and Brian went, yeah. So there's been something very synchronistic, but I keep forgetting, Brian, that you have been toying with this since college, and you know, and then also that gestating this son who had the grasp of comic book world and this gift for writing that hadn't revealed itself. And oh, look at all the wheels lining up for this project were really kind of fortuitous and magical.
And I think it would be unethical for me not to raise my hand and say, pretty much other than the original idea, everything Paul's giving me credit for really does belong to Leon, Adam, and Hans, especially in those early days. A lot of that was Hans. So again, I'm always very sensitive to the people who can't make a Zoom getting erased. So I would take 98.5% of what Paul said about me and Adam and replace me with Hans and Leon.
Yeah. For the beginning bit, that was really Hans and Adam started off, and they were like really the flag carriers. And then they were, you know, I had some ideas, and they encouraged me and let me in on the process. Yeah.
What Hans did really well was, if anybody read this and did not feel it was phony or shoehorned or like a corporate money, you know, oh, how can we make more money from the Aliens franchise? That was Hans. Hans figured out a lot of the organic transition from a film into a story that probably shouldn't have existed from the standpoint of 1986. And then what Leon did, even though Leon is on the Zoom, but I also feel Leon is being very humble. What Leon was able to do and continues to do on other stuff we're doing with him is Leon is very good with character and voices. And I don't know where he gets it from, because Paul is not funny at all. But anyone who laughed out loud while reading Burke or any of the other stuff Leon does, Leon is really, really funny. And he's funny in real life, sure. But there's a big difference between being funny in real life and especially in a comic book. You know, you got a big panel with artwork and a little thing for words. Leon was really good at making sure almost every little like sentence, the dialogue, unless it was like, you know, about the plot or whatever, really had that humor and frequently actually a lot of heart too. You see that, Leon? I'm your hype man.
Yeah.
That's
sweet, Brian. Thank you.
One of my favorite moments, you know, all our communication we were all on every email together, and that was sort of, you know, there was no, hey, tell someone. It was all five of us, except for one time, Adam Goldberg reached out to me privately, and you know, what we would do is he would say, here's the script, here's where we got the story, and now anybody want to suggest a change or a line. And so there's one script where I just here's I think maybe 10 suggestions, take them or leave them, whatever. And Leon did on his end he had more. He had like 30 or 40 lines that were like, and I had seen, I went, oh, those are really good. I said, I'm not going to vote. Leave it to Adam and Hans, and they'll pick the best. And so Adam reached out to me privately. He says, listen, you know, I love you. And, you know, we understand this is based on the character that Paul Reiser did, and Paul Reiser's in it, and Paul Reiser's writing on it. Having said that, your son's lines were funnier. I went, I know. He said, I assume as a father you will enjoy. I said, I couldn't be happier. So, yeah, that was, you know, to get out pitched by your son was a nice feeling.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention the comparison to The Office, Paul. When we did our review podcast on the run, we brought that up, as well as the film Office Space, which I believe Aaron still needs to see. But at first, when I went through the comic, I was a bit like surprised just how comedic it was, and it really worked, honestly. And it made for a really charming story, but also the art was really impressive. I feel. Particularly with how the xenomorphs are portrayed in comics. I'm very picky with that. And your artist, maybe you can help me with the pronunciation.
Gui Villanovo. I'm hoping that's not butchered, but Gui is a fantastic artist. And especially I feel like he got even better throughout like the series. And like I was so thrilled by the time we got to issue 5, because that was, you know, my baby. But he nailed all of the bloody bursts. Seeing everything was, he killed it. I think I'm very biased, but I think this is the best Marvel, at least Aliens book on the stands. And yeah, that's a big part of that is Gui's art.
I'm curious, Leon, because I could ask you this in real life, but this seems a good one. Were you surprised, or what did you note when you saw what you wrote actualized in images? I mean, did it change how you wrote or inform how you wrote subsequent? I mean,
no, I think seeing the first few issues definitely, and also this is my first comic book that I've written this, and just fitting everything. You know, comic books are a very tight format. There's not a lot of space. You know, I definitely wrote more than we could fit in my first draft of like issue 2. And so going like, okay, I really got to kill my babies here, and really gotta just put what's most important and what really only pushes the story forward. So yeah, I think, definitely changed. But I'm glad you enjoyed that Office Space humor so much. Getting the I was really excited and hoping that people would enjoy seeing that part of Weyland-Yutani, because we always see like the top, like the explorers and the miners and like all of these heroes. I'm like, there's some paper pushers as well. There's HR at Weyland-Yutani. I was excited to show that. Yeah.
One of our other hosts who doesn't tend to do these episodes with us, he has always been bringing up that concept when we chat. You know, this idea of the, you know, the boring bureaucratic people within Weyland-Yutani. And when I was reading through What If for the first time, I was like, Eric's gonna fucking love this. This is exactly the kind of stuff he's been going on about. But the humor, you know, Aliens has that classic 80s kind of humor, but it's not a franchise known for comedy. The one film that did lean heavily in that direction, which is one Brian's already admitted to quite enjoying here, is Alien Resurrection. But that's an aspect of it that's generally quite criticized. But What If is fucking funny, and it's one of the big strengths of the comic, and it works. Did you guys find it hard to balance that humor for a property that's not really known for it or celebrated for it?
It seemed that was sort of in the DNA of the pitch, and you know, my contribution to. I mean, the premise, the premise is funny. This guy has been, you know, sent to the ass end of the world because he has to take the bullet for what happened 35 years ago, and his daughter hates him, and his daughter lives on this fucking planet. It's like it's already loaded with all this very human stuff. And to me, the idea of me in space is already funny because, like, well, I wouldn't be there. You know, I'm already, it's so not my world that, you know, I think my instinct, I had to like pull back from trying to pop it too often because, like, okay, I wouldn't ever be here, is the truth. But that was the other thing I also realized, you know, certainly my first experience with comic books, and even I don't read comic books, so I had to really learn how to, you know, I'd never seen a comic book script, which is weird looking. And then, even just reading it. And Leon will go, no, you just go to the next box. Okay, I get it. But there will be lines of exposition in there that as a writer, as an actor, I go, well, that sounds like a lot of, you know, a lot of real estate. There's a lot of explanation. I went, wait a minute, you're not going to say it. It's typed up. It's going to come out of a box out of this guy. And it's a comic book. It's like, oh, right, then that's fine. You know, I had to shut off that part of me that said, I don't know how I could say that line. You don't have to. And if it ever becomes the show, it's like, we'll write it differently then. So it was a learning curve for me too, to curb my instincts.
I want to just say we were always hoping to find the humor in the Aliens universe because I think, as you know, Hans and Adam have great. Really, I mean, Adam made the Goldbergs great comedy. Like, they're very comedy minded. I think we all enjoy dark humor in this call. And, you know, from a different angle, Aliens is fucking a dark comedy. It's like the peril of I can't do anything. I'm just stuck in this little spaceship. Like, there's humor in that. I think there's always, you know, humorous moments in each of the movies, but I think we were all really excited to try and maximize the laughs here. And of course, with like the Office scenario and, you know, the pencil pushers and all that, it was we were really excited to explore. And yeah, the challenge of finding the humor in this was exciting for all of us, I think. Yeah.
And, you know, when I think of whatever humor was in Aliens, the film was largely on Bill Paxton and on Hudson. And that all came out of just the most human fear. Like, we're going to die, man. You know, it was all like, what, you know, the reason it resonated, he was so funny and great at it, but it was, somebody needs to say that. You know, we can't all be, you know, these macho soldiers. Somebody has to go, fuck, we're so screwed here. It's like, yeah, that's the call to make.
If I can give you an example of how hard it is to write humor, I'll tell you about a joke I suggested in our very first Zoom that one of my colleagues texted me. Was that serious or a joke? Just so you.
That's always good. That's helpful.
I said, and this is on literally our first creative Zoom ever. We already knew what the story was. Now we had to figure out how to break it into 5 parts and everything. And I was like, you know what we need? We need a scene where Burke's going to the bathroom and like he's just thinking to himself, in the pipe, 5 by 5. And that did not make it into the comics.
But it makes us giggle on the podcast, and that's not nothing, Brian.
Yep.
It's not nothing.
Thank you, Leon. Thank you. We always have each other's backs.
So there's a lot of fans out there who love small connections between Alien and Blade Runner. What if Burke really leans into that with things like the replicant joke, which we found amusing? So how do you feel about the connection between those franchises? Do they fit together thematically for you?
I'll happy to jump. Yeah, that's my territory. Big Blade Runner fan over here, and so there is in our original draft number 2. There's even more references, like in the junkyard. We wanted more like trash from the corporations and everything, and we tried to definitely lean on that. I think,
And that was an Event Horizon reference as well, wasn't it?
That might be. I'm not sure actually.
The name of the junk planet. I think that was.
Yes.
Kurt Russell in Soldier. No, not
That's
Event
right.
Horizon, Soldier,
no, sorry. Yeah,
Soldier.
Soldier. Yeah, Hans caught that. That was how. That's all Hans right there. Hans really did his research and like was definitely he's an encyclopedia of knowledge for everything geeky and especially aliens. Yeah, and so that and like any allusions to like the novels was Hans as well. But for the replicant, I think that's like one of the biggest, strongest flagpoles in sci-fi, and I think that's what connects them too. It's because I see aliens as like this perfect like battle between like replicants, humans, xenomorphs, like all trying to like vie for life and all being the perfect form of trying to be the perfect form of life. And that's like the thesis or more or less a Blade Runner of like the perfect form. And so it's such a perfect marriage in my mind. Like the human struggle of how long can we survive as the imperfect things when the world's getting more dangerous and we have all these impossible challenges to face. We have to adapt, we have to evolve, but you can't because we're just humans and we're stuck watching the higher species take over. So yeah, very, very happy to make those connections.
Whose was the replicant or replicant joke?
Oh God, I think that might have been Hans. I think that might have been Hans or Adam.
Right.
I can't remember that one.
I love that one.
It's a good one.
And Paul, I recently watched a show of yours called Reboot from a couple of years ago. And you played a character who was estranged from his daughter, which is similar to Burke's journey with his daughter in What If. I know some of our community were kind of wondering if that was a funny coincidence or if you guys have an interest in exploring that sort of dynamic in adult families.
Totally independent. And I had nothing to do with Reboot in the writing of it. That was Steve Levitan. So no, I mean, it's just coincidental. And then here, I mean, I think that was already built in. That was right off the bat in the beginning, heap full of material that Brian and Adam suggested. Was he has his daughter who resents him because he's, an embarrassment to the human race, and she has to live in this shit planet for her whole life.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you be pissed if Burke was your dad? Yeah. Like, who's going to be happy, Bring your dad to work day? I don't fucking think so. Hell no. Yeah.
Especially with the direction that the comic goes in, with him being very publicly known.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that was the part of the fun, I think, was imagining the damage that Burke has caused, not only to the world, but his career and his personal life and the fallouts of all of his decisions. Because, you're taking orders, but you're still enacting them. And yeah, it was very fun to write all that stuff of Burke's damage that he caused himself. Especially
as well with with how heavy Alien is on a corporate and a capitalist point of view, for the major consequences to his career as well. In What If, it's a nice way of getting that comedic element of the capitalism, of the corporatism in there as well. And so one of the things we've really been enjoying about more recent Alien comics and novels is the move away from people trying to just turn aliens into weapons. What If follows in those footsteps, with Burke wanting to use the aliens to cure his wife's illness, which we assume is cancer. What led you guys down that path of using the aliens that way? And we were wondering if you could just elaborate on how you thought Burke would have done that. It sounded like he was suggesting injecting acid into tumors. I was wondering if there was a bit more.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I had in mind. I don't know the details of where it was going to go.
Well, the thinking was that it was the acid melting. It was the blood. It was that whatever compound is in their blood that can melt through anything. If we could isolate that, inject it into cancerous cells, and just melt those cells away, it could fix any disease. Like, we were definitely, we are not doctors. We are not scientists. We are taking, liberties here and assuming that an injection would be simple enough to do it. But yeah, that was the thing. If we isolate those, whatever the melty cells,
compound is,
that would, yeah.
So not literally the blood, but like the specific elements that cause the corrosion.
Whatever. Exactly.
And why that sort of medical route with it? Were you guys conscious of let's not be boring and do aliens as weapons?
I think also that's definitely a part of it. Like, we've had aliens in every form of everything, but this guy is a bad guy using bad things for good potentially. Like, I think we were really trying to do, in the comedy vein, and we were definitely trying to add something different to the aliens universe and a different take on xenomorphs. Yeah.
And we also had a big sit down with the alien, and we go, look, the show is about Burke. It's not what if you, pal. It's what if him. So and he understood that ultimately.
And I suppose it does also. It's like you were saying, shades of grey Burke a little bit. He's doing shit things for good reasons that could have huge benefits for everybody going forwards. So again,
it's just, you know why, Aaron? Because I'm a giver. I'm a giver.
Well, we appreciate it, Paul. We appreciate
that's
it.
Right.
So, is there a particular element of the comic that you are most proud of? And anyone who wants to take this again?
Brian, do you want to start as it is your baby?
I mean, the thing that I'm the most proud of, I guess, because again, I'm very open about this. I had absolutely nothing to do with the writing, so I can't make that point any stronger if I tried. The fact that I'm somehow legally, morally, historically, whatever words you want to use, connected to the aliens universe. And listen, when we were working on that, I never in a billion years thought I could use those words to apply to the Star Trek universe. So it's funny, when the announcement went off, we had a Zoom that day to talk about the scripts, and Leon goes, "Yeah, congratulations, you got the Star Trek contract. I guess we'll never be seeing you again, will we?" I still chuckle about that, Leon. But yeah, for me, just getting to be a part of it was the best. And also, again, going back to my decade-and-a-half relationship with Paul, it really was we've done a lot of stuff together. But this really was, to a certain degree, for me at least, not you, Paul, but for me, where it all began. I met Paul in Aliens. I know it's a character, Paul, I know. So it really was this just absolutely wonderful moment of being connected to a childhood dream.
For me, it was, as I said before, the synchronicity of it, that Brian has had this idea way before we ever met, that we've had this we've talked about it, and then and I'm sort of just in the middle of it. It's like, oh yeah, I was in that movie. That was 30 years ago, whatever. And then, the suggestion, and it really, it ended up far exceeding my expectations. I mean, I thought Leon would, talk about bring your dad to work. I thought, well, Leon would get a kick. Could he just watch, could he just see how they draw?
I originally, my first meeting, I just went to listen, and then I wouldn't shut up with ideas. And then they're like, all right, fine, you can write one. Yeah, sure.
And so seeing that through line, that this kid who for so many years I would, say, stop reading comic books, go out and get some fresh air, read a book for fuck's sake. And then find out like, oh, it's a good thing he read all those comic books.
It was worth it.
He was worth it. He has a career now because he was reading all those comic books. So, the joy of that, on bookends of both, and from Brian through me and to watching Leon run with it, It's been a joy, and seeing the the humor of it, because it's not a funny movie, but seeing that world be approached from the side as the bureaucratic, human side of it, that feels right up my alley comedically. It's like, that's funny to me. That's why, I mean, when Brian first pitched, I went, it's really funny.
And Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this is the first and only Aliens branded run from Marvel, because I mean, there was an Aliens one shot, but everything else has been branded Alien.
Yeah, that's right. So this is
And
the
even-
first full Aliens run.
And to be in the what if category, I think as a longtime comic fan is particularly cool. And to like this combination of worlds is, yeah, it's really, I think it really is something special. Being able to like put any ideas and have them like collected and printed has been huge. But like for some specifics in this, my old sci-fi teacher from high school, who very much fostered my love of sci-fi and made me read, Isaac Asimov and Ursula K. Le Guin. His name is Harold, and he's honored in this book as Bree's chief. The mining operator is Harold, so that's a nice homage to my sci-fi teacher, and I'm happy that made it in. The line about espresso machine in Burke's ship makes me laugh. I'm so pleased with myself with that. That's an Action Bronson line. It's a lyric from an Action Bronson line about a little machine to make espresso. I just think it's so funny to call an espresso machine a little machine that makes espresso. So I'm happy that's printed.
So while there's been adaptations of earlier film scripts, Alien is not a franchise that has ever really explored alternate timelines or continuities in the past, with the exception of maybe the latter Dark Horse days. That seems to be changing under Marvel, with Aliens versus Avengers and What If setting up a continuation. So as fans, as creatives, how do you feel about the idea of these alternate continuities? And has there been any talk of returning to continue Burke's mission? I know it kind of ended on a setup for their work wasn't quite over.
Yeah. I mean, I think we at least I had a plan of what happens to Burke after it, and given I don't know how much we're involved in the other universes and other continuities, or where this I think what if it's technically outside of the main Aliens continuity, which allows us some creative liberties, I think, and maybe alien blood, xenoblood isn't a cancerous solution in every universe, but in ours it is. It's kind of a bit of a relief, I think, we get to play outside, and I think we don't have to we don't have to adhere to as many of the same rules, and I think that was a bit of a relief writing this, and we definitely would be game to do more. We're definitely there's more story to tell here for sure, and we'd love to do that.
I think almost every project, the creators have in the back of their mind what would happen next and could we do more. So there was absolutely, and we still there might still be a second run of these, but we also have always thought this could be a fun actual show, as Brian pitched it, The Office in space, which would basically be The Office because you don't know where they are. So that in my mind that would be lean more comic and less quite sci-fi space xenomorphs, because that's just a very different world. And maybe it's just because my brain doesn't go there.
I was gonna say that's just because you can't understand. I think
but also I just want
to
it's easier to say, let's just come up with two funny lines for these people to say, as opposed to, can we get the action and the expense of all that production value? But anyway, but also you can do having it off screen, knowing that they're behind the wall is just as effective almost. But anyway, it would be a lot of fun to explore and see, and there is talk about taking this and possibly doing a live action show. We'll see. We wouldn't be adverse to it.
That could be very
Glad to hear it.
So, What If has been out for a while, and while it's drawn some small criticisms from fandom due to some continuity missteps, I think it's fair to say it's been generally very well received. Have you guys had a chance to look at the response to the series, and is there anything that you'd have liked to have done different now that there's been some distance between you working on the comic and present day Leon and present day Paul?
As a junior writer, I made like the critical mistake of reading all the reviews available on the day it came out and just like updating and refreshing like comics hubs and all that. You know, talking to people at like Con and stuff, and I've been able to talk to people who've really enjoyed it. And I think people were maybe disappointed with how far we strayed from the horror elements. I think we could have done a better job in the middle of the story. I think there could have been some more room for some real, you know, shrieks and horror. And I think we could have leaned more into the scary side of all that more.
Yeah. Do you think that would have taken a bite out of the humorous part?
I mean, I think we could. Yeah. It's hard. I think it's harder to do humor when you're, you know, running for your life. I mean, to take that threat seriously, if you want to take that threat seriously,
Right.
You shouldn't joke about it. But I'm still very proud, and like really, like I was just reading it the other week, and I'm still so tickled that we are able to make this, and that this awesome book is a part of the Aliens universe now. But yeah, just a few more scares. I think that's the only thing we're missing.
Yeah,
There's
horror comedies are always a tricky one to balance, and one of the popular movies I think did that really well was Cabin in the Woods, which also has kind of those Office Space like elements, I would say.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. All those people downstairs working it. Yeah.
I feel like there's like a near enough formula to getting, you know, horror and humor in there, you know, with the scare and release, the tension and release kind of aspect of it. And that's something that Aliens itself, you know, does very well through Bill. And that comment, that character cracking under the pressure. So yeah, there's an art to it, I think.
Definitely.
Adam, do you want to wrap us up?
Yeah. So that's actually everything from us. Is there anything you'd like to share? Any anecdotes or thoughts that we haven't given you the opportunity to with any of our questions?
I know. I think you guys did a great job. I really appreciate the enthusiasm and the appreciation. We appreciate your appreciation.
Well,
So yeah, it's been a pleasure.
We appreciate you coming on.
So that was Paul Reiser, Leon Reiser, and Brian Volk-Weiss. You enjoyed that one?
Yeah, no, again, that was just a lot of fun. We've just had a number of really good interviews lately. We, at the time of recording this In and Out, we just recorded another one that was also great. But talking to these guys involved in making the comics or the games or the films, you know, it's always just such a treat. So this was another really good interview. So again, we really appreciate these three coming on and joining us.
Yeah, and we also love clapping ourselves on the back, don't we, Adam? That was such a good episode.
I mean, if it's a good episode, I just, you know, I had a good time. I like to say it.
No, me too. It was a blast to get to speak to them all. And as of recording this In and Out, I'm actually going to get to meet Paul at Liverpool Film and Comic Con in 2 days. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Is that a big one, that con?
A newish one, I think, but they've got a lot of fucking guests. They've got like a big Aliens reunion taking place here. It's like 6 or 7 Aliens guests going. I've got the big group Aliens photo booked. I won't tell you how much it cost. It made me cry a little bit. But there's also like a Starship Troopers thing going off there. A bunch of other a bunch of other big, you know, sort of IPs and stuff like that there as well. So it's looking like it's going to be a pretty big event.
You bringing that poster?
Of course. I've got to add Paul's signature to it. Also there is going to be Rico Ross and Daniel Cash, and I need to add their signatures to it. I met Rico once at my very first convention, but this was before I had the poster and was getting the poster signed, so he'd signed my, you'll get a thrill out of this, Adam, my UMD Aliens cover. Oh
man,
so that is not quite retro. I don't want to think it's retro, but yeah, I think it's more of a unique format than anything else.
Yeah, watching movies on our PSPs. Interesting times.
I had Aliens, and Predator on UMD. and I've watched them many times on the floor of my grandmother's living room, sleep when I needed somewhere to sleep after a late night at college or work. But also on that cover is Trevor Steedman's signature. So some random signatures on that one.
They'll be like,
Anyway.
what is this? You watched the movie with this?
I'm not getting that signed. It's all going on the poster. And do you remember my thing about getting the Aliens CCG signed?
Uh-uh.
Oh, you don't remember? Okay, sorry.
Oh, here we go. Oh, so they're like little cards, right?
Yeah, CCG as in collectible card game, Magic,
gotcha.
that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
So there was an Aliens one.
That was an older
Aliens
one, right?
and Predator one.
That came out in the 90s.
1999/2000.
Right. Okay.
So for folk who are listening, I showed up a framed collection of my signed singles from the Aliens and Predator card game. So I've got Michael Biehn. Barbara Coles is on the Cocooned Victim character card. Although, funnily enough, the picture isn't actually Barbara Coles. I didn't realize until much later, I'm ashamed to say, that it was one of the dead colonists. It wasn't actually her character. I've got Dallas, I've got Bishop, I've got Kane, and on the Eat Vacuum event card, which is the big chap being ejected from the Narcissus airlock, it's signed by Roy Scammell, who was the stunt performer in the alien suit during that scene. And then the most recent one I got was Veronica Cartwright on Lambert. And I'll be adding Paul Reiser as Burke this weekend.
Very cool. That is a nice deep cut display there, because not a lot of people probably remember that game.
Yeah, it only lasted 2 sets, so it's not too popular.
Oh.
And there's my cat behind us having a look at my empty spot on the wall and hopefully not destroying some of my signed comics on the side there as well.
I see you got your new Isolation vinyl. I've been enjoying that as well.
Oh, yeah, that's on the shelf behind me. You can't really see it very well. It's still sealed, though, because I don't have a record player yet. But I was like, I can't pass the chance to buy this for when I do get one. Gorgeous piece. Anyway.
We should just have a show and tell episode.
We should do at some point. It's funny, before we sat down to record this, I said to Adam, we'll just be quick, right? We'll not take too long. But we always go off on semi-related tangents.
Yeah.
Before we signed out, I just wanted to thank our new Patreons. And hopefully I haven't already gone over these folk before, because we record that many and I record so many out of time and order that I don't remember what we've done. But I'd just like to thank Almedos, Nathan Grimble, Cyrus, Benjamin Holzapple, and Ian Kelly for supporting us on Patreon.
I think we had a couple change their tiers recently as well.
I think we did do them last time, the change ones.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you everybody for the support. Helps pay for the post-production tool that I use for these episodes. And if you are on Patreon, I'm also been uploading early listens of the podcasts. So, if you want to listen to these things early, if you want to join us live on some of the discussions, and that's some of the perks that we offer on there.
We have a secondary podcast as well called Genetic Memory, where we talk about things that we're into that are not 100% Alien and Predator, that are like Alien and Predator adjacent or related things, other sci-fi movies that have taken inspiration, we would say. So we've talked about Underwater. We've talked about what's the spooky space one?
The spooky space one
with the giant worm. Galaxy of Terror.
Yeah. We've also done some of the things that are like the people who worked on Alien and Predator have also been involved with. So we've done Dark Star, which of course is the comedy version of Alien, as we would backward engineer that saying as Dan described Alien as the horror version of Dark Star. We've also done Without Warning, which was Kevin Peter Hall's first jaunt as an alien hunter, specifically prior to Predator. And as of recording this, we've also got an episode planned in for next week on Event Horizon, which is
That'll be an
also
exciting one.
something that patrons can join us on live as well, if they so choose. Adam, where can folk find us?
So you can always find us on our main hub of activity, which is our website, avpgalaxy.net, where we're covering all the latest news on the franchises, of which there's a lot of news right now. And we are also on all the major socials: Facebook, X, Instagram, Threads, now Blue Sky. There's other places that our community's at as well, including our Discord channel and our Steam group. And again, just a big thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you'd like to support what we do at AVP Galaxy, check out patreon.com/AVP Galaxy.
Indeed. And thank you once again to Paul, Leon, and Brian for joining us. This has been Corporal Hicks
And RidgeTop.
signing off.